Hey, what is up guys? My name is Cherno, and welcome to a video that will show you how you can contribute to Sparky. So Sparky, of course, is a game engine that I've been working on for just over a year now. It's a 2D and 3D game engine that is pretty early in development still, but there's a lot going on and it's a huge project, and if this is the first time you're hearing of it, I recommend that you take a look at the devlogs, because they'll kind of fill you in on what's going on and all the new stuff that I'm working on and kind of will need help with and all that stuff. But this video is just going to cover how you can actually go from looking at the repository on GitHub here, which is just github.com/thecherno/Sparky. The link to that will be in the description below. Of how you can go from like looking at this repository to actually submitting pull requests, and how you should be writing code for Sparky and kind of how the whole process is going to work. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make a GitHub account if you don't already have one. I'm sure a lot of you already do have GitHub accounts. But if you navigate to the repository, I mean, step one, obviously, you're going to have to like hit the start button. I mean, that's the first thing you should do. But that aside, once you do that, you're going to want to basically just fork the engine, right? So the way that this is going to work, I'll kind of like in this video, I'll basically cover everything you need to go from just this to like essentially submitting a pull request, and then I'll talk about like more or less what you should be doing in Sparky. So we'll cover the how, not the what, to begin with. So if I just hit the fork button, I'm logged in, by the way, as just another another GitHub user account I have. It's called the Cherno proj. So that's what I'm kind of going to be using here. If I hit the fork button, essentially, I mean, it's as simple as that, right? I'm now looking at Sparky on my kind of repository, right? So then what I want to do is I essentially want to clone this on my computer, make changes to this, commit to this, and then eventually, open a pull request, right? Which is pretty easy to do. So this is what I'll do. I'll kind of cover that with you guys. So you want to take the URL that you've got, right, which is going to look something like this. It might probably have a .git on the end, but you can see that this is my version of Sparky, right? Like the version that is on the Cherno proj, not the Cherno. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to find a nice directory on my hard drive here, somewhere maybe over here. All right. Over here, for example, I've got a nice directory. I'm going to, cover the command line for you guys. But if you have something like tortoise git, of course, you can just right click, hit git clone, and then clone it. But if you just type in git clone and then you paste in the name of the URL here, then it will start kind of cloning that. So this will take a while. Probably, I mean, I'll let you guys know how long it'll take, but it should take might take like 10 minutes or so. So I'll see you guys in a minute. All right, so 10 minutes or so later, when this is all done, you will have Sparky in your thing, right? I should say on your computer. So once you have that, just open that with Visual Studio 2015. You can get Community for free from the internet. If you go to visualstudio.com, there'll be a link in the description. You can download Visual Studio 2015 Community. It's completely free, and it will open this up fine for you, and you'll be able to do everything. So anyway, once you've got that and you've opened this up, let's talk about how we can modify this and submit a change. So first of all, when you open the repository, you'll probably you should see this once you open the Visual Studio solution. It might take a little bit of time here to pass everything that is going on, but the way that it's set up, there are a few things you want to change. So first of all, in the configuration here, it will be set to mixed platforms. Change that to Win32. Mixed platforms will only apply to the C# project, but just so you know, Win32 is the only platform that we actually support right now. So you definitely want to make sure that you're set on that, because the problem with other platforms is that they're just not configured. So x64, for example, I don't believe that. Sandbox doesn't even have an x64 config, but if it did, whoops. Let's cancel that. But if it did, it wouldn't have anything set up anyway. So next step is these two projects. the best thing to do with them, because they don't work, is to just right click them and hit unload. You don't have to do this, but if you try and build them, you'll get error messages in your error list and stuff like that. If you try and build them, because they won't build, right? So if you don't want to see those error messages and you don't want to see them pop up in your file searching and all of that stuff, then the best thing to do is just to right click on them and hit unload. Great. Now that we've got that, we can take a look at this kind of stuff. So inside Sandbox, let's just open up, I don't know, a file. I mean, we don't really have to open a file, but there we go. Cool. We've got a file. Let's debug Win32, right? With the Sandbox set as the startup project. Let's just hit the local Windows debugger button here and wait for that to compile everything. So it'll take about, I mean, the first time you compile this stuff, it will probably take around 2 to 3 minutes. So the big things are going to be like free image takes a lot of time. So the two big projects here that will take forever to compile are free image and Sparky core. Everything else should be fairly quick. So anytime you make a change to like a free image header file or something, you're going to have to sit through a long build. But basically, once these dependencies are built, you can literally just like unload them if you want, or you can just kind of ignore them because you won't be really doing anything with them. Probably, right? It's not a very typical case to have to modify them because I've kind of set them up to be good. All right, so we're building Sparky core now. So I'll take like a minute or so, 30 seconds maybe. Okay, and while that's going on, I'll kind of expand a little bit on what's going on here. So, or maybe I'll just wait for it. It's almost done, I think. Yep, almost done. Come on. Yay. Okay, and then finally Sandbox, which won't take too long at all. And Sandbox is done. Okay, great. So now it's opening and it should run fine. All right, cool. So here we have Sandbox and you can see everything's running well, and this is set to DirectX here. So everything's pretty good. So this is how you get Sparky running. This is how you build it yourself. It's really easy, right? I've made it so that you don't actually have to do anything. All of the dependencies are contained within the Sparky repository, right? As you can see. So there's absolutely no need to go ahead and hook up paths or download extra stuff. No, you just get the Sparky repository and then you run it. Now, the really important thing that I need to point out is that you may actually get errors if you don't have the Microsoft Windows SDK installed, okay? The reason that's required is because the DirectX context creates the context using the debug, like using the flag D3D11 create device debug. Okay, so it basically creates the debug layer. If you want to use the debug layer, you need to have the Windows SDK installed. Okay, otherwise it won't work and it'll complain about couldn't create device and you'll get a crash. So basically, this flag will get removed, obviously, when for production code and for distribution builds, but for debug builds and possibly even release builds, that'll be on. And I just haven't set it up right now so that you can just so that it gets switched off based on the configuration, or that there's a macro or anything that will switch it off. So it's always on right now, which is fine because if you're developing, we're developing this engine, so you should have the Windows SDK installed anyway. So that's just something to watch out for. I know a few people were getting this crash because of this. So make sure you have the Windows SDK installed. That's the only requirement, and that's only if you want to use DirectX, which you'll have to. If you switch to OpenGL though, and you don't have the Windows SDK installed, it should just run fine. So we'll just quickly check that out. All right, cool. So there we go. So that's running fine. Nothing is really going wrong. Cool, no crashes or anything is what I meant. Okay, brilliant. So let's just say we change something, right? Let's just take a look at something that we can change. I don't know. I don't think there's anything that's just yelling out at me that could get changed. I'm literally looking for really basic stuff just so I can change something. But I don't know. It's pretty perfect, isn't it? So let's go into, oh, a good thing to change would be something like this, right? So these types right now are using like char, short, int, long, for example. They should really be using something like int 8 underscore t, right? Kind of the C++ defines. So if we just quickly change them to use those, for example, I think that would be a decent change that we can commit. And I might actually merge it because I've been meaning to do this for a while. So yoink, yoink. This is cool. We're actually going to contribute to Sparky live on this video. Amazing. All right. Oops. So now that we got those sorted out, let's talk about how we can commit that. So you're going to want to do a few things. First of all, by the way, I just changed that, didn't even compile it. So make sure you build the project first. That's step one. Make sure it compiles, okay? And not only that, but you'll have to also make sure that it works in both debug and release, okay? We don't have a QA department, so you can't just be like, oh, my code compiles, so it's QA's problem. No, that's not how this works, okay? You need to make sure that your code works. I mean, this goes without saying, but I'm saying it anyway. You need to make sure that it works in both release and debug. Right now, again, we support one platform, so it's easy. You just need to just hit F5, make sure it works. If you're doing any kind of graphics changes or anything like that, make sure that it works in both DirectX and OpenGL mode. But you can see that this seems to be functional, which is good, so we can commit it. So what you can do now is I'll open this file, for example. You can see that file's been modified, and I can literally commit it. If you're not using tortoise git, then you can just obviously do something like git add, types or whatever, and add it, and you can even diff it as well. You can see what we changed. I mean, we changed a few things, but really types are the only one that we want to commit. Make sure you don't commit any changes to Sandbox if they're not like Sandbox related. For example, I mean, like on my local branch, on my local copy here, I switched that to OpenGL, but it's committed as DirectX. Obviously, that's not relevant to this change. Also, don't commit any binaries. At the beginning, I did commit binaries, and you can see that we do actually have that. But I've kind of stopped doing that. In fact, I don't think we do commit binaries anymore at all. Yeah, we don't. We ideally would get continuous integration set up. The reason we don't commit binaries is because they've become over 100 meg. Like Sparky core.lib becomes over 100 meg when it's in debug. In fact, I think I can just check that right now. sbcore.dll. Maybe not the core. Anyway, something I remember was like, or maybe release version. I thought something was over 100 meg. So I'm like, okay, fine, no more binaries. So anyway, ideally we would be doing that, but we're not. Anyway, the important thing is to not commit any files that don't need committing. Like, for example, the precompiled headers. We don't want to commit any of that stuff. Just make sure that you know what you're doing and only committing the stuff that you need, that we need. Okay, cool. So anyway, let's go on to, let's go find that file that we changed. Types, right? I'll use TortoiseGit from now on. We can just diff it to verify that the changes we've made are actually what we want. You can see they are. That looks pretty good to me. So let's do a git commit to master, okay? Changed integer type defs to C++ standard. Sure, just type in a message that makes sense and that describes everything you've done. If you've changed a whole bunch of stuff, split it up into different commit messages. But that looks pretty good. Type defs, I'll do that. Okay, cool. And then just hit commit, then hit push. So we'll push onto the Cherno proj. If I can remember my password. Yep, good. So now, right, if I refresh this, you'll see that I've actually done something and it's recognizing me as the Cherno because I'm set up that way. But anyway, pretend that the Cherno proj has done that. So that's good. So now all we have to do is actually open a pull request. Okay, so to open a pull request, navigate to the actual repository. So not your one, but the Cherno/Sparky repository. Hit the new pull request button. Okay. Now what we'll do is you'll see the compare across forks thing, because this is just between local branches. I don't know why it's set to that by default. That seems a bit weird. But anyway, compare against forks. And then this is the base. So this will always be the Cherno/Sparky if you're merging into that, which is what we're doing. We're opening a pull request to merge into that. And then the head fork becomes your actual fork of Sparky. So the Cherno proj/Sparky in our case. Okay. This, of course, brings up our commit message, and it brings up all of our files, and everything is pretty good, right? So this looks good to me. It's got the diff, of course, that's the thing that we did. So I'll leave a comment. I mean, I'm not going to leave a comment in this case, but you just hit the create pull request button once you leave a comment with what you've actually done. Make sure here that, first of all, you don't have an overload of commit messages and commits, right? I usually squash all of them into one commit anyway. Unless you've done because a lot of people will obviously, and it's fine, like if you're just like, oh, if you commit again because you're like, oh, forgot to add a file or forgot to do this, that I obviously will just squish them into one commit because I don't want to clutter up the repository. But just kind of make sure that everything here is as clean as possible, okay? So once we create that pull request, it becomes an official pull request on Sparky's thing, right? And then all I have to do now is essentially just merge that in, right? So on my side, I mean, this isn't really going to be relevant to you guys that much, but on my side, if I actually open up a thing that's logged in with me, if I go to pull requests, I'll probably, I may comment here, and I may be like, I'll obviously look at the commits and stuff that you've changed, and I'll quickly just verify that that's correct. Okay, good. And then, I might ask you to do something, and if I'm happy with it, I will usually just squash this and, either merge or usually squash is the way I like squashing things. So there you go. Change into type test, blah, 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 confirm, squash, merge, done. And now we have gone to actually commit into that, and that's completely done now. Okay, so that's how that works. It's pretty simple. There's not much to it. And you can see that, yeah, we've successfully changed something in the engine, which is pretty cool. So there you go. I have been accepting pull requests. If you look at the commits, by the way, a bunch of them aren't even by me. Like there's, these two, right? I'm totally letting you guys do this stuff. Don't think that I'm going to be really judgmental or protective of this. By no means am I like that, right? I really want you guys to contribute. I really want you guys to help. So if you don't know what to do and you just want to help, and you're not exactly sure, the best way really to go about this is probably to start using Sparky, and you'll see a bunch of things that is very wrong with it that you can obviously improve, okay? And that's kind of one thing you could do. The other thing is, if you hop on over to issues, I am going to start opening issues here. There are a bunch of issues already on Sparky's Trello, right? So if you go to bit.ly/Sparky Trello, that's like the Trello board, and that will have a bunch of issues, for example, bugs and issues, blah, blah, blah. A lot of them are really out of date, but like this one, for example, and I'm kind of trying to mirror them on this actual issue thing. So you see, for example, that this is an issue that I opened a couple of days ago where we can't generate mip-maps, and you might be like, oh, I know how to do that, or I could fix that, so fix it. Fix it. Assign yourself to it if you like. I don't know if you can do that actually, but maybe you can. Maybe I have to assign it, but just leave a comment being like, I'm working on it, or I'm on the case, or something like that. And then you can eventually open a pull request. You can also obviously share your opinions on certain pull requests and stuff over here, and just go through stuff. I was going to say that I will typically leave comments as well. For example, if there's a commit that or if there's a pull request that generally is good, like this one, however, there are some things that need to be changed, I'll, leave a list for you, and then you can change it, or you can tell me why you don't want to change it, and we can talk about it and all of that stuff, right? So don't be afraid. Just jump in there, write some code, and hopefully all of us will contribute to Sparky and make it a much better engine. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. I'm going to make another video, hopefully this week, on actual specifics of how you should write code for Sparky, because a lot of people are really not sure about that, and that's totally fine. I mean, the rule to get started for you right now, like just so that you can get started, the quick rule is just look at other code, right? Look at code that is around you. Yeah, if you're changing something, like if you look at DirectX Texture 2D and you're fixing that the mip mapping generation bug, right? And you see that, for example, you know, I mean, variables that I'm declaring, if we go over here and you need to make a new, I don't know why you would, but let's just say you do need to make a new boolean that's like to generate mip maps or whatever, don't do something like generate mips, right? You can see that clearly the convention for this is to have an M underscore and then a capital here to like for fields, right? So just kind of be aware of the code that's around you. Obviously, if you guys have had experience collaborating with people or working like, you know, having like a, if you're a software engineer as a career, then this won't be a problem for you. But if you're kind of just starting out, just look at the code that is around you. If you don't know how to do something, for example, you might be like, okay, what's the standard way to like log something in Sparky? I mean, just take a look at the code that's in the engine already, because most likely what you're trying to do has already sort of been done in some capacity, right? As in like something especially as simple as logging has obviously been done, and it might not be that easy to check. But actually, like another thing you could definitely do is just run it. For example, you see that like I do stuff like, you know, log, and you might be like, oh, I wonder how he logs in yellow. Like I want to do that because that'd be useful or whatever. How does he do that? So it looks like he prints large allocation. Let's just search for the text large allocation. Oh, look, here it is. Oh, he uses SP warn to do that, right? Simple. Just kind of do stuff like that. I'll definitely cover that in more depth when we get into you know, that specific video. But just for now, just kind of look at neighboring code and try and blend in. That's the pro strategy. Okay, cool. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.